Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm a young Muslim woman and I consider myself to be part of the Claremont Main Road Masjid community. Some of you may have seen me here during Ramadan, for Jumu'ah, Eid Salahs, and other special religious events. Let me start off by saying that my sharing of some of my thoughts is by no means intended to change your mind about your own understanding and interpretation of Islam. I'm merely wanting you to see through the mind of a young woman growing up as a Muslim within a South African context, strongly influenced by Western society. With it being Women's Day yesterday, I wanted to remind everyone of the constant struggle of young women in challenging cultural expectations and stereotypes of women. While I am committed to my religion, Islam, I have struggled over the last 5 years while being in high school with some issues related to the patriarchal culture that strongly influences the way in which Islam is being interpreted and practiced. Many of these cultural biases allows for what I believe to be oppressive practices towards women, which contradicts the egalitarian teachings of Islam. Allah the Most High proclaims in the Holy Quran, in Surah Al-Tawbah, chapter 9, verse 71, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَيُطِيعُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ أُولَئِكَ سَيَرْحَمُهُمُ اللَّهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Men and women are awliya, supporters and protectors of one another. They enjoin what is just and forbid what is evil. They observe regular prayers and practice regular charity and obey Allah and His Messenger. On them will Allah pour His mercy, for Allah is exalted in power, all-wise. The above verse of the Holy Quran outlines the foundation of gender relations in Islam. The verse defines the relationship between men and women as equal partners, awliya, in establishing a healthy family and society. The verse further expands that the concept of awliya gives each person, male and female, equal responsibility for their actions and fulfillment of their religious duties. Although women are given recognition as awliya, equal partners to men in the Holy Quran, in reality, most women don't get the respect they truly deserve. We are treated as less important, inferior, and less powerful. And the worst part is that we often eventually internalize and believe it, that we are less worthy than men. Young girls like myself grow up greatly influenced by our surroundings and culture. Every advert, billboard, and snide comment is part of the patriarchal culture which creates empowered versus disempowered women in this world. For example, adverts that show young boys playing soccer in the garden with their dads versus adverts that show young girls helping their mothers inside. This is something we see every day, yet we fail to see its power. These young girls start to subconsciously believe these oppressive things, no matter how determined they may be. I would like to share personal experiences which provide everyday examples of the strong patriarchal culture that subtly permeates our society and strongly and powerfully influences the way women see their role in society. On Eid Day this year, one of my uncles made a sexist joke about the role of women in society. He said, Why do women go to space? Because somebody needs to clean up and make the food on the spaceship. That's not funny. His 7-year-old daughter, being quite feisty, stood her ground and made it very clear to everybody in that moment that young girls and women can be whoever and whatever they wanted. In this moment, while being so proud of my young girl cousin, I felt a deep sense of sadness and despair. I began to realize that this young girl, no matter how determined and headstrong she may be now, if she constantly hears that she belongs in the kitchen, if she hears sexist jokes every day about her role in society enough times, unfortunately, she will begin to internalize and believe it. And we would have lost an incredibly determined, intelligent, and powerful young woman in Islam. The second experience I would like to share is from my high school. A few years back, I captained the first girls soccer team at my school. We were scheduled, together with our school's boys' teams, to play our respective matches at the same time. To our dismay, the boys' teams were allowed to play on the designated soccer field, and the girls' teams were relegated to the inappropriate hockey field. As captain, I fought against that injustice, and I stood my ground. But what disappointed me the most was that these young girls in my own team had so internalized this idea that they were inferior to these boys that they gave in, and I was left standing there alone. This is an example of how young women going to a good, progressive school succumb to the daily and constant, everyday challenges, which each might seem like a minor issue, but together and collectively create a dominant culture that indoctrinates us into believing that young girls are less worthy than boys. In the face of these two disheartening experiences, it's hard to believe that having grown up in a family and a masjid environment where my empowerment as a woman has been a priority, that I still feel inferior and less capable in some situations. Leadership in my own household has never shifted towards men, but is shared equally with women, even when it comes to leading the salah. Emulating the example of Waraka, who was given permission by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to lead the salah for the people of our household. In my family, everyone gets a turn to lead the salah. I have led salah on many occasions, and so has my brother. But for some reason that I cannot explain, I feel less inclined to offer to lead. My brother doesn't even need to be asked, and if he is, he will lead. When I'm asked to lead the salah by either my mother or my father, there's this horrible, uncomfortable, and nauseous feeling in me that I don't want to do it. And I don't know where this feeling comes from. It is extremely frustrating and scary. Because I know that leading the salah could empower young women, that it's giving women the role of leadership in a Muslim family. I know how important it is, yet when the moment comes, it's like there's this invisible force field in my mind that I struggle to get through. This is, I realize, the effects of a culture on a young woman who hears messages constantly in small everyday experiences that she is simply not good enough to lead. This tendency is magnified in religious spaces where the broader Muslim community and the Muslim friends we have at school all believe that it is automatic for men to lead, even if you come from a progressive family. So can you imagine a young girl whose father doesn't ask her to lead the salah, whose brother makes sexist jokes every day about her role in society, whose friends at school say she can't play soccer because she's a girl? Can you imagine the girl who didn't, unlike myself, have two parents who are feminists sheltering her from societal expectations of women? It is one of the big challenges facing us as a progressive masjid and a Muslim community to make sure that we do not lose our young girls to wrong and unjust cultural interpretations of Islam that undermine the full worth and dignity of women. Religion is something a lot of women hold dear to their hearts, and it forms an integral part of their spiritual understanding of themselves within their religious context. False traditions of the role and expectations of women make these young women wonder whether a tradition that disempowers women is actually good for them. This pushes young women away from having a strong relationship with Islam. I would like to end with an inspirational quote from a young Canadian Muslim advocate for inclusive gender processes, Dr. Alam Murabat. And I quote, "It is not easy challenging distorted religious messaging, but we have to do it. We have no other option than to reclaim the message of human rights, the principles of our faith, not for us, not for the women in our families, not for the women in this room, not even for the women out there, but for societies that would be transformed with the participation of women." Unquote. In conclusion, it is our responsibility as a loving and caring Muslim congregation to make sure that every girl grows up with equal opportunities to flourish and reach their full human potential. And for each of us to reflect on how we can encourage change in our own families, in our workspaces, in our schools, in our communities, and in our broader society. At this time, when we celebrate the women in our country, I make dua and pray that Allah blesses all our women, young and old, so that they may reclaim their rightful roles as awliya, equal partners to men in fashioning loving and more compassionate families, masjid communities, societies, and the world, inshallah. Shukran, thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Imam Rashid for all the support.